We're now on Daf Hayomid Beis. Remind you, and which transgression is as offensive when it's committed by Israel as if it's double offensive is Avodah Zarah. Dichsiv, as it says, Kishtayim Ra'os Asa Ami. My people have committed two evils. Osi Ozvu Mekar Mayim Chaim. They have abandoned me, the source of living waters. Lachtzov Lehem Boros Nishbarim. To hew out for themselves cisterns, broken cisterns. The people sin by abandoning Avodas Hashem, the service of God, for the service of Avodah Zarah. And the Navi likens this to broken cisterns. And it's considered as if they had committed two transgressions. Uksiv Bahu, it says regarding the people of Israel, Ki Ivru Ie Kitim Ura'u. Go to the isles of the Kitites and see the Kedar Shilchu Bisbonenu Mi'od. Send to Kedar and consider diligently. Ahemer Goy Elohim, Vehemolo Elohim. Has a nation changed their gods, even though they are not gods? The Ami Hemir Kvod below Yoel. My people has changed its glory for that which is of absolutely no benefit, Tana. And we learned in the Brisa, Kusim Ovdim La'esh, Kadorim Ovdim La'mayim, V'yafal Misha Yodim Shamayim Echab Misa'esh. The Kusim realized that water could extinguish the fire. And yet they insisted on worshiping the fire. Lo Hemiru Eloheihem. They refused to change their God. The Ami Hemir Kvod below Yoel. And yet my people has changed its glory for that which is of absolutely no benefit. The idol worship committed by Israel is doubly offensive. Not only have they changed their object of worship, which is not the way even of nations that worship inferior gods and idols, but they have changed the living God, exchanged him for an idol that has no benefit whatsoever. B'yomalei, Rav Nachman, Rav Yitzchak, Mai Dechsiv. What is the pasuk in Shmuel Aleph? Per Ches. Vayihi kasher zaken Shmuel. Shmuel became older, and it came to pass. Misiv Shmuel Kulei Hai. Is it really true that Shmuel got so old? Varei Valo Bar Chavishim Shtayim Hayo. He died at the age of 52. Tiyomar Mar, we learned in the Brisa, Beis B'Chamishim Shtayim. If someone dies at the age of 52, Zel Misasa Shel Shmuel Arabasi. Also, Shlomo Melech, if I'm not mistaken. In any event, there's a Masechet called Smachos, and it's all about mourning and death. And the Masechet teaches that someone who dies at the age of 50 was high of Kores. If he dies at the age of 52, although he wasn't subject to Kores, that couldn't be possible, but Shmuel died at that age. Now, there's a long discussion here about how the Gemara knows that Shmuel actually died at the age of 52. Shmuel's mother, Chana, said that as soon as Shmuel was weaned, she would take him to the temple. He would be brought to the Mishkan of Shiloh. He would spend a lifetime of service in Shiloh. And then it says, the term ad olam does not mean here literally ad olam forever, but it means it's a reference to the lifetime that a Levi lives until he retires from Avodas HaMikdash at the age of 50. So there's an allusion here based on Chana's prophetic usage of the term forever, which teaches us that Shmuel served for 50 years in the Mishkan. And normally a child is weaned at the age of 2, then he must have died at the age of 52. Amalei, so Rabbi Yitzchak responded, Hachi Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Zikna Kaft. In other words, Shmuel had premature zikni. His hair turned white prematurely. It says regarding what Hashem said to Shmuel, I regret having made Shaul king. And God now designs the king to kill King Shaul for disobeying. As Shmuel says, Ridona Shalom, Shekaltini, Moshe the Aram. Moshe the Aram, Shmuel Bekari Shmo. So in this pasuk in Tehillim, you have equated me with Moshe and Aaron. And Ma Moshe v'Aaron lo batlu ma'isi yedei b'chayeihem, the handiwork of Moshe and Aaron did not come to naught during their lifetime, because Yoshua survived them. Af ani lo izbato ma'isi yodei b'chayeihem. The same should apply to me because of your equation between me and Moshe and Aaron, that my handiwork should not come to naught during my lifetime. So I appointed Shaul as king. If he dies during my lifetime, then he's battle maisi yodai b'chayom HaKadosh Baruch Hu, heichi avid, what should I do? Lema Shaul, if I should take Shaul's life now, lo kashavik Shmuel, Shmuel's not going to allow me to do so. Lema Shmuel ad zutar, why don't we let Shmuel die younger, and then I could kill Shaul immediately after his death? Meranene Abasrei, the people would then malign Shmuel, claiming that he died because of courage, on account of some wrongdoing. Lo leimah Shaul v'lo leimah Shmuel. If neither of them will die, that's not acceptable, because kvar yia malchus David. The ein malchus no gas b'chaverta afil t'mo nima. So we have a rule that one reign cannot encroach upon another reign, and it's the designated time for the reign of David has already come. Akpitz olav zikna. I will make Shmuel prematurely white, mean prematurely old, so to speak, without any implication that Shmuel has sinned. So it means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu now has to take the life of Shaul, and then David could reign. It's his time. But on the other hand, he can't take the life of Shaul while Shmuel's alive. But if he takes Shmuel's life prematurely, people are going to say about Shmuel that he was, who knows, guilty of what sins, and they did in fact accuse him of various sins. So Hashem's solution to this problem was Akfitz Olav Zikna. He will die prematurely, but Lo Yiranu Abrios, people will not say that he was very old. I'm saying that he was very young and he died young. They'll think that he died old. Now, let's go back for a moment to this note over here. He says that the pasuk says, "Vayik Asher Zaken Shmuel." That's what it says in the 8th paragraph of Shmuel. And then it says, "Nichamti kimlati Shaul." That's later on in Sefer Shmuel in Perek Tes Vav. How can we say that Kofta Zikna Olav because of the termination of the Malchus Shaul? I mean, that was much later on. This is the Kash of the Maharsha. But I also wanted to point out something else over here with regard to the Kusiim, the Kitiim. It says, Tavruna be'iyim shebakisim is gorib bahem. And these are the Romeim on the west. Shulchu ma'shalchu malachim l'ros be'minag kedar, the Bnei Arav. They lived in the east. V'tishmetu im'chayse b'neim k'toy vos. V'chigoy echad mehem hichlif v'heberes Elohav bi'acher. V'zos af shebemes einam Elohim. Even though it's not a real true God, a deity, but nevertheless, they continue to do what their forefathers did. They are constantly loyal to their Avodah Zarah. Whereas Am Yisrael, unfortunately, Hichlev is called Hashem Avodas Kocham She'ein Bo Toeles. Ahainu Ditziv is Shaul Yoshe Begiva Tachas Ha'eshel Berama. So Shaul is sitting in Giva, that's what we call Givat Shaul today. under the tree in Ramah. Now, what's going on here in this pasuk? Chima inyan Giva Eitzel Rama. What's the relevance of Giva? That's in the area of Binyamin. So Yeshak Josunir min Apostle Chak Giva VaRama Makom Echad Ayu. But that's not true because Giva was in the city of Shol in the Nachla of Shevet Binyamin, and Eitzel Rama, which is the city of Shmuel Aramasi, which is in the Nachla of Shevet Ephraim. So what's this Yoshe Begiva Tachas Aishal Barama? Ella, but rather Lo Malacha, Roy Hoyash Shol Yomos Miyad, Liachar Shalokia Ritzon Hashem Lara Gezar Shalom. Umi Garb L'Shol Sheyeshe Begiva, that he will continue to live in Nachlas Shevet Binyamin and Giva V'Yimlo Shtei Shalim Umetz another 2.5 years, and he shouldn't die immediately after the story of Amalek. Malchusa Shel Shol Nimshecha Shtei Shalim Umechza Lo Malacha, that Shol should have actually lived. Roy Hayash Shol would have lived and then died. Miyad li'achash lokim rotan Hashem. Umi garm l'shol sheyesh begiva shtei shanim after tefilasa shel Shmuel Aramasi, who asked that lo yisbatel ma'isa b'chaya. So the pasuk is telling us that Shol lived in Giva and he did not die. He survived another 2.5 years because of the schus of Shmuel, the Eishel Agadol, Shayadar Barama. That's the Eishel, is the Eishel Agadol Hadar Barama. So Achlomer says in the note, HaKadosh Baruch Omer Nichamti ki imlachti et Shol Melech v'tchilas malchuso v'lulei tfilaso shel Shmuel haya meis miyad, he would have died immediately. But filaso Shmuel ho ilo laharach malchuso shtei shanim umechtzat she'igia li'eis malchuso shel David. So God sought to kill Shaul shortly after he became king, but as a result of Shmuel's prayer, Shaul's reign was extended for 2.5 years until the time for David's reign had arrived. The verse is understood that Shaul dwelled in Gibeah as king due to the merit of the great tree Shmuel, who lived in Ramah. So the Gemara asks, does one man get pushed aside for the sake of the other? So in other words, would God have brought about the premature death of Shmuel just because he capital H, had to allow for David's reign? So nidachim chayav shel adam b'klal adam acher. And the Gemara says, "In the Omer of Shmuel bar Nachmani or Rabbi Yochanan or Rabbi Yonasan, my desiv." What is the meaning of the pasuk in Hosea? It says, "Al kain chatzavti manavim haraktiv be'imrei pi." I have hewn out my word by the prophets. I've killed them with the words of my mouth. B'maseyem lo nemar. It doesn't say that they killed the result of their averos, their deeds. Ella be'imrei fi, because of the words of my mouth, meaning a divine decree. Alma mitchi gavra becoming gavra. What was necessary, where it was necessary by divine decree, such in the case of Shmuel and David, Biglal shani gazarti, Masechet shel Shmuel shemeis kodem zmana lo biglal Masechet lo biglal gzeiros shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu shegiat eitz David limloch. Alma mitchi gavra becoming gavra. So this is part of the divine overall plan. Of Nachman Rabbi Yitzchak Aviyasvi b'Sudasa, they were eating together in a Suda. Omer le Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak le Rabbi Yitzchak. Lema mar Milsa tell me his Var Torah. Omer le Rabbi Yitzchak responded to Rav Nachman Hachi Omer Rabbi Yochanan Ein Masechet b'Suda. We're not going to talk during a meal. Shema, Yakin, Kana, Levation. That maybe the Kana will get caught in the Vesha. He says the windpipe might precede the esophagus in receiving the food. So when one talks, the covering of the windpipe opens and the food could enter the windpipe rather than the esophagus and cause choking. And that means he'll come to danger. So Rabbi Yitzchak said, I'm not going to talk during the meal. The Basar decide after they finish the meal, Amalek. Then Rabbi Yitzchak says to Rabbi Nachman, I'll give you an answer to your question. Here's the Torah, Rabbi Yochanan, Yaakov Avinu no mes. Yaakov never actually died. Nishar chai li'olam. That's why Yechi Yaakov. So it seems that maybe his guf died, but his neshama didn't die. I mean, there was chanata. Amalei Rav Nachman said to Rabbi Yitzchak, how is it possible that Yaakov didn't die? There were those who eulogized him. Was that just a waste of time? Chantanaya, and they did a chanata to his body. And not only that, Kavru Karvaya, they buried his remains. They embalmed him. They buried him. And the pasuk says that Jacob was eulogized, embalmed, and buried. Certainly it means he died. Amalei Rav Yitzchak responds, Mikrani Doresh, Bi'ata Altira Avdi Yaakov Dumashem. In Yirmiyahu it says, fear not, my servant Jacob. Says Hashem al Tachas Yisrael, do not become broken. Ki hideni Moshiacha merachot. I will save you, I will spare you and deliver you from afar. And your descendants from the land of their golus, of their shevi, captivity. And we see here that not only will Klal Yisrael be delivered from the golus, but so will their forefather Yaakov. So Altira Avdi Yaakov. Makishu Lizaro Mazar B'chayim Afu B'chayim. Just like the seed are alive, they're living, because we're referring to the living, the dead cannot be described as captives. Afu B'chayim, so too Yaakov himself will be living at that time. What does this mean? Yaakov appeared to be dead to those who embalmed him, but he quotes him the fortune that Yaakov Lomes, his immortality, not as a prolongment of physical life, but as a form of continued spiritual existence. Like we said, his neshama continued to live. Rabbi Yitzchak too knew that he died, but he wanted to expound the verse as it's fit. And if the exposition cannot be taken literally, then it contains an allusion, for it can be said that he did not die in the sense of what the sages say, that tzaddikim afil b'misosam nikroim chayim. Omer Rabbi Yitzchak, Omer Rachav biyad Mikri. Mikri is Miloshin Peri, of a seminal discharge. Now, what happened is Yoshua sent spies to Eretz Yisrael. They lodged in the house of a woman named Rachav. And the Gemara says in the Megillah that Rachav was one of the 4 most beautiful women who ever lived. Amalei Rav Nachman, Ano Amina v'lo ichpas le. I can say the word Rachav and nothing happens. Amalei Rav Yitzchak said to him, Kika Alina Biyoda Umakira, seeing that someone who knows her and is familiar with her. When he mentions her name, he has a seminal emission. Yavi Mifteri Me'adodi, with Rabbi Yitzchak and Rav Nachman, we're about to take leave from one another. Amalei Rav Nachman asks Rabbi Yitzchak, Livarchan Ma, please give me a blessing. Amalei Rabbi Yitzchak said to him, Emshal L'cham Mashal, L'madav Redomali Adam Shahaya Holech B'Midbar, V'haya Ra'ev V'ya'ef B'Tzamei, he's hungry, tired, thirsty, he's on the travels, on the journey in the Midbar. Umatza Ilan Sheperosa Mesukim V'Tzilo Not. He comes upon a tree, fruits are sweet, the shade is pleasant. Amas Mayim Overes Tachtov, a stream of water flows beneath it. Achami Perosa, Shasami Memav, Yashav V'Tzilo, he ate from the fruit, drank from its water, sat in its shade of Vakesh, Lele. And now when he goes to leave, Omar, he declares, Ilan B'Mev Harchechav. How could I bless you? If I'm going to say to you, let your peros be fruit, your fruit be sweet, well, your fruit is already sweet. That your shade will be plus you already have that. The only blessing I can give you is if they plant shoots from you, meaning they, let's say, take off a branch, shoot, is you kamoscha on the top of the Vav and Aleph, they should be like you. Is Rabbi Yitzchak, Af Atah B'Mevarechecha. How can I give you a blessing, Rabbi Nachman? In the Torah, Harei Torah. You already have knowledge of Torah. Be Osher, Harei Osher, you're wealthy. In the Banim, Harei Banim, you have children. Ella, Yiratzon, Sheyu Tzetza E, Me'echa Kamoscha. May it be the will of God that your offspring will be like you. In other words, with all due respect to Torah scholarship, wealth, and prestige, nevertheless, that doesn't guarantee that would all be passed down to your children. And therefore, I give you this blessing that your Yotzei Chalatzecha should be you, Kamoscha, they should be just like you. Chachamim, Gedolim, Acham b'Torah, Gedol b'Osher, Kavod. And here we have a kasha from the Ein Yaakov. The Ein Yaakov says, Madu Pirish Rashi, Torah v'Osher v'Kavod. He said in B'Bonim Harei Bonim, Lo Hizkir Lo Kavod. So Rashi should have said Torah, Osher, U'Bonim. So the Yaakov answers that Kevan Shegam Ubanechi Yubanim, if your children would have children, they're so covered. As it says in Mishlei Ateres Kenan B'nei Banim. So by giving him this blessing of cover, he was implying they would have B'nei Banim. Dagos Habach has a different girsa, and Rabbi Yitzchak said to him, first Torah, then Gedula, then Kavod, then Osher, and then Banim. So now we understand that when Rashi says B'moscha Torah Osher means Kavod, Torah Osher Kavod. Okay, this is we're going to stop here on the top of Daf Vav Amud Aleph. Thank you very much.